It's best practice not to use your administrator account for everyday tasks like browsing the internet or checking your email. With a browser-based exploit, it will run in the same context of the user that accessed that website. So if you're running as administrator, now that web-based exploit could have administrator access to your system, privileged access to your system. Whereas if you're running with a regular user, they will still have access to your system, but will be more restricted. It will be more difficult for them to establish persistence and evade detection. That says they want to do those things, and that's where privilege escalation comes into play. We're going to string together a series of exploits, one to gain initial limited access, and then we'll use several other exploits to escalate ourselves to a root or system level access to this system. In the Metasploit framework, these will be referred to as local exploits, and several of them are even built into the interpreter payload, so you can simply type git system, and Meterpreter will try several different local exploits to escalate from a user account to a system account, which then gives you complete control of the targeted system. I'm starting with a Meterpreter shell on a compromised system. I'm going to use that shell access to get some hashes from this system, and then I'm going to pivot from this system using pass the hash to gain access to another system on this domain. My username is Windows X or WinXP. It's a local administrator on this compromised system that's part of the Brady domain. It is not a domain administrator. So looking at the processes that are running, I want to migrate from the user process that I'm running into a system process. So if this user logs out, I still have access to this system. I'm only running in memory. So I'll just migrate to a process ID that looks appealing. Why not? SVC host. Okay, migration completed successfully. So after some time, the local admin logs out. And we're going to pretend we were really patient and waited a really long time, and at some point in the future, a domain admin logs into this system. So if I do a PS again, I can see now that Brady/administrator, that's the domain admin, has logged into this system. I'll migrate to one of their processes. Why not? And then I'm going to load Mimikatz, which is a malicious package with a bunch of capabilities for gaining access to passwords and hashes. If I just use the regular hash dump command, I'm going to get all of my local passwords, but I'm not going to get my domain hashes. I'll just load Mimikatz. When I use SY0 to look for logon passwords, we get a bunch of output. But in this output is password hashes for different accounts. And up at the top, we'll see here's a Kerberos authentication for an administrator account from the Brady domain. So I'm going to copy the NTLM and the landman hash. And I'm going to use these with PsExec. PsExec lets us log into Windows machines using port 445 server message block. I'm going to use the SMB user as the administrator account, and when I use SMB pass, I can either actually have the password for this account. I don't have the time to crack these hashes, so I'm actually just going to use it. It's landman hash :NTLM hash. If the system you're using doesn't support landman authentication, we could also replace that landman hash with 32 zeros. And my domain is Brady.Life in this targeted system. If you're not part of a domain, you don't need to set the domain. I'm targeting my RA host of the machine I'm targeting. and server message block is over port 445. I'm going to use the Windows Meterpreter reverse TCP payload. I know this is a Windows system. The Meterpreter shell is my favorite with a reverse TCP payload. Once this malicious file is executed on the target system, it calls back to me rather than me trying to call to that system. This help gets around any restrictive firewalls that might be on the target system. And then I'm going to set my listening port. Let's use 8000. Why not? I'm going to listen on port 8000, so this communication will be initiated on the client. They're going to connect to port 8000 on my system, and I have to set the system it's going to call back to, the listening host. I'm going to use the system I'm currently using. And we'll check the options. Okay, so I'm going to connect to the admin share, the Brady.Life domain. I'm using the SMB user administrator. I've set the password to that hash, and then this is going to call back to me with a reverse TCP payload. Now the moment of truth. I'm waiting. Still waiting. Success. Okay, I manage the system entity authority system. So I'm connected to a server 2012 R2 machine in the Brady domain. So I've gained access to one machine, used my access on that machine to get some password hashes, and then use those hashes to move laterally throughout this domain. And now with these domain credentials, I could log into any system that's joined to this domain and is a Windows host.